Destiny 2 Forsaken has finally been revealed. With E3 promising hands-on gameplay of the new game mode Gambit, we'll also get more information about what all of this entails here pretty soon. But as for right now, let's take a look at the reveal trailer and break down everything that we know about Destiny 2 Forsaken.
We have this opportunity that we wouldn't have had years ago to ship a game and then really collaborate with people outside the studio to figure out, like, what is the best version of that?
Honestly, yeah, like we're building something the community has been asking for, and it's accumulation of everything that we believe the game needs to be.
The upside to that is we're not holding anything back.
All the feedback we've heard for the last year is, this is it, it's in Forsaken.
What's going on, Guardians? Sly here, back at it with some of the best news in recent years. If you remember the leak video I put up a few days ago, I mentioned that it didn't really matter if it turned out to be true or not, but what did matter was what is inside of it, what was involved. New bosses, new enemies, new places, new. Well, that is exactly where we're going and getting with Destiny 2 Forsaken. 9 brand new subclasses, or at least reiterations of the one that we have, for instance like the Titan bubble, new game modes, new destinations, a new raid along with its own destination that, at least to me, looks like one of the most beautiful and interesting places Bungie has ever created, new weapon slots, new random roles, secrets that evolve over time, in-game player titles, collections, achievements. I mean, guys, the list here does just keep going on. And in this video, we're going to be taking a look at the major announcements from the reveal stream, because if I really talked about everything that was included in here, this video would be well over 45 minutes long. And I know most of you hate it when my vids reach over 10 minutes, so I'll try to condense it down as much as possible. Alright, Guardians, well, first things first, if you haven't watched the reveal stream, then you are really missing out, and you definitely need to do so. So the link is down below, as well as at the end of the video. You can click on it there as well. I've said it all along, y'all, that September is when we will know if Bungie can pull Destiny out of the dumps, and man, am I excited for the future. So let's put things into context on why Bungie is going all out for Forsaken. 2019 is going to be a pretty stacked year for open world shooters. We have big ones like the Division 2 and Anthem, and those games are just like Destiny. You know, they take a lot of time to master and a lot of time to get everything that you want. So with all of these games, you're going to have to choose which one you want to main, because Bungie will be vying for that spot as well. And since these games are so involved, it's going to make for a very difficult choice. So most of the information that we're going to talk about in this video comes from the ViDoc that Bungie showed us right before the live reveal. That's where the meat of this comes from. So that's where I'm going to focus this video in, and instead of going over everything from just start to finish, I'm going to break everything down into sections. So first section to talk about, new places to go. Now, assumingly, just like the other content releases, we're going to have a new social space, or at the very least, a new vendor in the new area, which that still remains to be seen. But as far as places we do know that we're going to go to, the Prison of Elders is first up. Much of this expansion will be centered around the Reef, and from what we know so far, the beginning of the expansion will focus on the Prison of Elders. Now, not the game mode Prison of Elders, but instead the actual prison itself, something we've never really seen before. Cade has been stashing away bad guys inside the Prison of Elders for some time, and now all of a sudden they're trying to make a break for it and they start escaping. So it's going to be cool to actually get to dive into the prison and see what that's all about, as well as how big it is. I also expect to see some PvP maps, strikes, or parts of the new game mode to be held in here as well. The next new area we're going to be talking about is called the Tangled Shore. This is a destination which also takes place inside the Reef, but according to developers, it's an area we've never been to, seen, or have heard of. The Tangled Shore is an area of asteroids that have been lashed together by thick wiring and fallen harpoons. Add in buildings made from scraps and a barren sci-fi landscape, Bungie is shooting for kind of a space western type of theme here. Now, we'll get to new enemies here in a second, but this new area is home to the Scorn, a new enemy type in Forsaken. But the shore is home to more than just the Scorn. We're going to have pirates here, assassins, outlaws, and barons all make the Tangled Shore their home. So it's going to be interesting, guys, how they turn a bunch of floating asteroids into a playable map. That'll be interesting to see. Now, about the new enemy types in Forsaken. So far, we really only know of 2 new types. We have one called the Scorn and another called the Baron. Both of them are sort of like mutilated types of Fallen, or at least that's what it looks like to me. Apparently, the AIs for them are different compared to other enemies because the Scorn are extremely aggressive and more akin to like what Thrall like to do. They rush at you with their melee weapons and then try to overwhelm you. Another enemy type we hinted at earlier, the Barons, those are pretty much the top dogs of the Reef. Now, Barons aren't entirely new because they're pretty much like Archon type of Fallen, but these enemies do have new looks, abilities, and weapons. Some look like they're an amalgam of Hive, Fallen, and Taken all together. You can see like Hive weaponry with Taken power on an Archon frame, so it'll be interesting to see how the Barons differ from one another. Inside the Vidoc, they talk about each Baron being different. And when you're on these Baron hunts across the different worlds of Destiny, you have one Baron who's a sniper, and you have to end up having like a sniper battle across the map with him. Another is very Scorn-like, who's all about melee combat, so it seems like your tactics will have to evolve and change every time you meet one of these guys. Once again, keeping it fresh is something that's awesome to see. So the next new area we're going to be taking a look at is called the Dreaming City, and something that really appeals to the sci-fi nerd inside of me. Now, it appears that this is going to be something truly unique. It seems Bungie is really trying to step outside the box with this one. The Dreaming City is not only a location, but the raid takes place here as well. The rings that we were shown last week on Twitter are located here too. As you can see at the top of this picture, I knew that those rings were not in the Reef. Anyways, the Dreaming City looks to be something seriously special, and since recapping it really won't do it justice, just watch this short clip.
We leave the raid team alone. I mean, if you can't tell, like, we just kind of let them do their own thing. But
we have Joe over there.
For this next raid, we wanted to get back to the epic adventure where you're going out to slay a big monster again. This raid has more bosses than any raid we've ever had before, and we're really excited to get players in there.
The raid is actually about more than just the raid. It's about the Dreaming City, the place that the raid exists. And it's an in-game destination that we've never done before.
It's the awoken homeland.
I could talk about the Dreaming City for hours. It's like if the Vault of Glass and Dreadnought had a baby.
If they were like twins.
Or yeah, that's actually more accurate.
Yeah, they're like twins.
It's
Yeah,
like
yeah, yeah.
It had twins, and then you took those twins and you put them on the doorstep of Peter Jackson, raised them as his own, and then that's the Dreaming City.
It is magical and weird and mysterious.
It's designed to be a destination that has puzzles that you need to solve.
A lot of hidden corners, lots of passageways that might not seem to exist the first time.
And the raiders, they affect this destination. They change it for everyone.
It's like this cyclical endgame place where there's just secrets and different activities that unveil over time.
So the Dreaming City that you see at launch is not going to be the same Dreaming City 2-3 weeks later.
So how awesome is that, right? A changing area loaded with puzzles to figure out, hidden areas that unlock over time, and the more you raid, the more secrets start to open up? I mean, yes, please. This appeals to every cell inside of my gaming body. A beautiful science fiction universe that not only houses one of the largest raids to date, but also a place that is packed full of evolving puzzles, not to mention the lore of the Awoken Homeland. I mean, I'm getting goosebumps just thinking about it. This is exactly the type of thing Destiny needs to do more of, and they absolutely nailed it with the Taken King, and now it looks like they're going to do it again with the Forsaken. Now, those are the only new places that we know of, at least so far, but remember, when the Taken King launched, it changed things across all of the destinations in D1, so I wouldn't hesitate to expect the same thing here. Now that there are 3 working studios on Destiny, we have Vicarious Visions, Bungie, and Full Moon Studios. I think they finally have all of the resources they need to start making the game we wanted in the first place. Alright Guardians, next up let's talk about supers. Now from the looks of it, all 9 supers will be changing. Some might only see a couple of big or small changes, while others are being completely overhauled. For instance, right here we see the Titan Bubble being used. So, hoping Weapons and Blessings of Light make a comeback, or at least something similar. Also, Arc Strider looks like it's staying as well, because we can still see a staff being used here with Arc Energy, but it looks like there's now going to be a blocking mechanic incorporated into it, and it seems that it can actually shoot back projectiles. One of the other supers that's staying but could see a couple of huge changes, the Striker Titan. It almost has this superhero kind of flying glide thing going on, but also notice that Death from Above has made its way back as well. Now so far we haven't seen any kind of shoulder charge from any of the Titans, but I'm willing to bet it will be there as well. It's just simply way too popular of a subclass choice to not see it return. Now let's move on to some of the insanely new subclasses. First, Gunslinger looks like it's being replaced by a new super that uses solar throwing knives. Now it's possible, guys, that Golden Gun is still there, but simply set in another skill tree, because I think it's just too popular of a choice, especially for long range DPS, to just simply get rid of it. Hopefully, instead of a skill tree where we get 2 different versions of the same super, we can actually change supers altogether, such as throwing knives or golden gun while using the solar super. Now, it's still too early to tell, but we will know quite a bit more once E3 gets here in a few days. So what this new solar knife super can do is still yet to be seen, but it does look pretty cool. Alright, so the next super we're going to be taking a look at, also for the Warlock, and just like the solar throwing knives, it too is seeing some huge changes. Now, depending on how they're planning on handling things, the Void Warlock is now getting this crazy teleporting Void super that seems like it's a mashup of Stormcaller and Void damage. What all it can do besides this little piece that we see here is yet to be seen, but so far it looks pretty awesome. Now, the craziest thing so far, at least in my opinion, is the new Warlock Arc super, where the Warlock ends up firing a huge beam of arc energy, similar to Iron Man's chest laser. It looks pretty wicked, guys, and I'm hoping that there won't be a huge amount of range drop off, because one thing the Warlock always lacked was a long distance DPS super. I mean, sure, there was Nova Bomb or Dawnblade, but come on, they definitely didn't stand up to hammers or golden gun, so it'll be fun to see where it goes. Okay, so as we move on, we can see what the new Void Hunter can do. Now, I actually had to come back and re-edit this in because I missed it the first time, but so far, this is the only new super we know the name of. It's called Shadow Mark. This Void Hunter pulls out a pair of Void Knives and, similar to Blade Dancer, just jumps in and goes to town by slashing and dodging all over the place. But it seems like it gets to keep its smoke bomb with this new super, which is why I think these new additions will be on top of what we already have rather than replacing. But as you can see, the new Void Hunter just simply shreds. Alright guys, and finally the last super we're going to take a look at, the new Hammer Bro. Instead of throwing hammer after hammer, we see a Rise of Iron style Warhammer that gets created, and then that gets used the entire time. You can use it as a single swipe melee attack or a heavy damage attack that shoots out a long flame, and at the end of that flame, it spawns a fire tornado that wreaks havoc swirling around the map. That sounds absolutely dangerous, no matter if it's PvP or PvE. Bungie is definitely pulling out all of the stops in terms of powerful supers. Now, like I said, we really don't know enough information yet about whether or not we'll have these supers on top of our current ones, or if they will all go away and be replaced by these new ones. Now, I have a feeling it'll be option 1. I think we'll end up learning these supers, and then they will be an option on top of the supers we have now. This will give us way more options and choice on what to use for specific boss fights, encounters, patrol, whatever. So choice, guys. Yet another thing Destiny has been missing out, but looks to be coming with Forsaken. Now, the only thing I'm not yet sure on is what the Warlock is doing here with the Titan. The Titan pops a Ward of Dawn, then the Warlock does the Phoenix Dive, or what looks to be the Phoenix Dive. Also, the sword stays in the ground for quite some time. So not really quite sure what's going on here. Maybe we're getting more choice when it comes to being like a support character as a Warlock. Perhaps this throws an overshield or heals teammates. Not really quite sure what's going on here, but once again, I cannot wait to find out. Now, as far as all this red glowing Guardian stuff, we'll get to that here in a second. Alright Guardian, so while we're on dealing damage, let's go ahead and jump into the weapons. Now, Bungie has shown us an absolute treasure trove of new weapons and armor within this video. So I'm not going to go over all of them, but let's go over some of the new ones that you might have missed while watching the ViDoc, and some of the ones that stand out the most. So first up, who are you gonna call? Looks like this Hunter is who you're calling, with a kind of Ghostbuster type of line rifle. I have a feeling that this might be the next iteration of the line rifle. But just like a Ghostbuster weapon, will it attach itself onto the nearest target, or perhaps even branch out to others and damage multiple targets with each trigger pull? Bungie is going to revamp how Masterworks end up affecting weapons, and it looks like we're going back to where we can upgrade certain weapons once again, and they become more powerful the more we upgrade. We'll dive into Masterwork details here in a second, but let's go ahead and keep this weapon thing going. Alright Guardians, next let's take a look at one of our first Forsaken exotics. It's called Twin Rabbit, and it's obviously themed after the Jade Rabbit exotic scout rifle, but the intrinsic perk for this bad boy is called Gravity and Fire. Shoots 2 tracking rockets, 1 void, 1 solar. But take a look at the bottom. It says that void rockets suppress and solar rockets cause damage over time. How awesome is that? I mean, this is going to be something extremely useful for boss fights that end up getting a little too close for comfort. Being able to suppress enemies is something that I don't think players use enough. I mean, it's something pretty powerful. So if this is the direction Bungie's going, I can't wait to see what else they have in store for us. Now, just like some of the other weapons I'm about to talk about, If you fast forward the video a little bit, you can actually see the launcher being used right here. It also has a very distinct look to it. Now also within this same clip of the weapons, there's an exotic sword, or at least what looks to be an exotic sword to me. Unfortunately, they don't scroll over it, so we're not sure what it's called, but towards the end of the ViDoc, you can see a Titan holding it for a brief moment. Right here. Also, fast forward the video a little more and you can see another Titan taking advantage of its exotic perk. Now it looks like to be the same sword, but it's kind of hard to tell. You see our Titan friend up in the air, and then with a flick of the sword it launches out a projectile which then wipes out a mob of ads. Exotic swords in Destiny 2 need a little bit of love, so we'll see what they do to them going forward with Forsaken. Alright, so those are the first two exotics coming in the new DLC, but we are not done yet. As we let the clip play a little more, here comes another one. From what I can tell, it looks to be an exotic shotgun. Now, shotguns are, in my opinion, one of the best weapon types in Destiny. They are so much fun to use, crazy powerful, and they fulfill that power fantasy very, very nicely. Now, I could be wrong here, and it ends up being some kind of pulse rifle or a new weapon type, but to me, that's a shotgun. Now, I actually had to come back and edit this in, but later on in the ViDoc, we see a new weapon that looks similar to the thumbnail of that shotgun, which you can see right here. This looks pretty similar, guys, especially with that very pronounced rectangular clip. Now, it shows 3 barrels, but I really don't think you're going to use all of them. It's just for show. Either way, it looks like a badass weapon. Also, while we're taking a look at this shot, look behind the Titan at the hunter's back. It kind of looks like a grenade launcher back there, but it has that weird handle on the top and a very small barrel. I think this might be a new type of fully automatic, high rate of fire shotgun. Now, I could be wrong, but just by the way it looks, it just doesn't feel like a grenade launcher to me. So what it is, we really have no idea, but I just thought I'd point it out. Alright guys, so there's 3 exotics to take a look at. Let's go ahead and pop in one more. Let the clip play a little further, and here's our 4th exotic, an exotic hand cannon. Now, notice the trigger guard here. You see how it kind of loops and extends out? This might be the same weapon as this one right here. Again, we don't know the perks or the name, but if they're showing 4 weapons in the first reveal, what does that say about how many there are in the game in total? Now, if this is the same weapon as we see here, it has a kind of Thorn vibe going on here. Thorn and Taken kind of mixed together. It looks really, really good. And you can see it in action for a brief moment here at the end of this clip. So, pretty awesome, guys. Also, notice the vibe of the legendary weapons here. Extremely reminiscent of Rise of Iron. We have like the wood stocks with a really dark, gritty kind of iron metal. It gives it a real rustic, almost like World War II kind of vibe to it. I guess they're trying to hint that these weapons were thrown together within the Prison of Elders, which is why they look so primitive considering we're in the age of spaceflight. But either way, I really like the Rise of Iron weapons, so we'll see how these end up turning out. So as we move on, we see another weapon being used here by a Titan, another auto rifle. But it's too ornate to be a simple legendary. Perhaps it's a quest weapon or an exotic, but just thought I would point that one out as well. Alright Guardians, last but not least, bow and arrows. Now I never thought I would be saying that bow and arrow was coming to Destiny, but so far I'm actually pretty impressed. They look to be similar to snipers, high damage weapons that focus on accuracy. Now according to the ViDoc, there are long range bows, medium range, and close range. Perhaps they will also determine the rate of fire. Maybe close range bows will fire 2 or 3 arrows at a time, or perhaps fire back to back really fast, whereas long range bows deal more damage, but have a slower rate of fire. Either way, you see them all throughout this ViDoc. They're being used just about in every single frame. So if they're using them that much, then they must be either pretty powerful or extremely fun to use. Okay, and the last thing to take a look at is of course the weapon which looks like the Ace of Spades all day. So that's one exotic I really kind of miss. You know, I wasn't a big fan of bringing old exotics back to the game, but the Ace of Spades was pretty much my go-to weapon in Destiny 1. And that's one old thing I really would not mind them bringing back. But while we're on weapons, our Guardians' weapon slots are of course changing as well. Now Bungie didn't go into too much detail, but it looks like we're going to have the ability to run weapons like we do now in Destiny 2, but also run snipers and shotguns in our current energy slots. So I don't know if they're going to be dialed down versions of the heavy slot shotguns or snipers, but I'm sure we will find out details at a later date. No matter what happens, I'm totally excited that we're getting our old slots back. Okay, next up, let's take a look at the new game mode coming to Forsaken called Gambit. Now, this is the game mode some of the YouTubers were hinting at when they attended the Community Summit a few months ago. I've always said that Destiny needed a PvPvE mode, and it looks like we're finally getting one. So 2 teams enter the arena and are separated by a large gap. Each side of the arena has a container or bank in which you will put these things called motes. Motes drop from enemies. Now think of it like a gigantic horde mode type of game where the more enemies you kill, the more motes you earn. Now when you fill up your bank, and especially if you fill up your bank first, you can send over an enemy known as a blocker, which is an enemy that shuts down the opposing team's bank, making it so they cannot continue to fill up their bank with motes until they have killed and dealt with the blocker, and then everything returns to normal. Now on top of this, at certain times throughout the match, a player can take a portal or man cannon over to the other side of the map and try to cause as much havoc as possible for the other team. Now usually they would simply get melted by being team shot from 4 players. But if you notice the red glow around these guardians, that is an overshield you get when traveling to the other side. So you get a big boost when making the jump. It won't be an instant death. We really don't know how the rounds work, or if it's best 2 out of 3, 1 out of 1, or if there are multiple rounds per match. That really hasn't been announced yet. However, Gambit will be playable at E3, and the embargo ends for those who attended the Community Summit a few months ago. So all that information will, I'm sure, be announced here soon. Bungie is also attending GuardianCon, in which Gambit will be playable then as well, so we will know all the details here very, very soon. Now, I'm not sure if I will be able to attend GuardianCon this year, especially since I'm going to EA Play, but if I can manage the money side of things, then I will definitely be going. It all comes down to finances. Anyways, that's really about it, Guardians. There is so much more to talk about, but again, it would draw this video out to a crazy amount of time, so I'm just going to end it right here. Now, on a side note, if you didn't catch it, my girl Petra Venj looks to be making a comeback as well, which you can see here in this small clip. Notice the computer on the left-hand side. Petra Venj coming back is just awesome. Another thing I'm excited about, player titles. With Forsaken, the menu will be getting an update showing us how to unlock over 2,000 items available by the time Forsaken arrives. But more so than that, there will be a triumph page where certain achievements and challenges can be worked towards. I'm assuming by completing certain triumphs, that will unlock player titles, so on top of auras, titles will be another way we can customize our Guardian, which everybody can see. Something I've been wanting for a very long time. Anyways, that's about as deep as I want to go in this video, so hope you enjoyed it and hope you've seen a few things that you missed when you first watched it. This looks like the Destiny I always knew it could be, and I can't wait to hear more about it in the next reveal stream. But until then, thank you all so much for watching, and keep those eyes open for more Destiny 2 Forsaken videos, as well as videos covering my trip to EA Play, Anthem, and Division 2. Take care, y'all, and stay up to date by following me on Twitter or Facebook, Sly Nation Gaming. Later, y'all. Keep those eyes open for more uploads coming out here soon. But until then, this is your dude Sly, and I'll catch you all next time.